this is 25 secret things to do at Disney World. I do want to preface this by saying these are not going to be little like viral hacks or things like that that will be an inconvenience like to other guests or like make cast members hate their jobs. These are just things to do at Disney World that the average visitor just isn't aware even exists, because it takes a whole week just to do like all the theme parks, the 2 water parks, spend a day at Disney Springs, and you don't really get to enjoy other lesser known things. So that is why I made this post, to talk about all the other things you can do outside of just your typical theme park day. So for starters, all the Disney Resort hotels have this thing called Movies Under the Stars, where they will play movies on a rotating schedule every night, and they usually have like these blow up screens. This was a really old one from Port Orleans, probably like 15 years ago, but they still do these. Some of them are like on the beach, some of them are out like by the pool, some of them are just on a lawn. It just depends on your resort, but it's completely free. They give you the schedule like when you check in, or you can see it like near where they do the movie night, and you can just, you know, plan to see what movie you want to see while you're there. Another thing that they do is they usually do this right before the movie, but they do a little campfire. You can roast marshmallows, and you can even upgrade for a small fee to do like a s'mores kit to make s'mores there at the campfire. They have recreation cast members there that facilitate that. And then Fort Wilderness also does their own little thing called the Campfire Program, where they do the marshmallows, you get to watch the movie, but they also have like live entertainment. And so it's in this bigger movie watching area, and they will post the schedule. They have some bleachers, they have seating down here, and it's on a more like permanent screen as opposed to just like a blow up. So it's a little bit more involved, and that's always really fun to do. You technically don't need to be staying at these resorts to do any of these things. For the marshmallows, they will likely scan a room ID, but to like just go sit and watch a movie, for the most part, they don't really check unless it's maybe like a high capacity time, or if that particular resort has been having like issues with, you know, too many people or something. Another thing you can do is fishing. So they do catch and release fishing there. There's a few different places you can do it, like outside of Magic Kingdom on Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon. And then Caribbean Beach is also on water where you can do it. Old Key West and Port Orleans are on a little canal. And then Yacht Club, that whole, it has a name, but it's escaping me, little lake that's there at the boardwalk. You can do catch and release fishing. And here's kind of what these pontoon boats look like. And they're just there at the boat dock, like where you would catch a boat to go anywhere else. Animal Kingdom Lodge, they do cultural immersion activities. So most of Animal Kingdom Lodge, the cast members there are usually in the cultural representative program, and they're from various places around Africa. So you can do all these activities where you collect a little bead for each activity, and you can create a necklace. They have things like bingo and decorating cookies and arts and crafts and some educational things as well. Here's some photos when we've done some cookie decorating. This is a really great resort to plan like a resort day rather than like going to the park, because there's so much to do here. Animal Kingdom Lodge also has a savannah where you can see the animals. So you can see here, like these are the balconies of people's rooms, but then this photo was taken from like a viewing area that like anybody can go to. And they have different animals there throughout the day. They also have some out there at night. And they do like night vision goggles for you to see them. And that is a fun free activity to do. You can also go horseback riding at Fort Wilderness. They have a ranch there, and every time I've gone, I've gotten the exact same horse. and that was over the span of several years. You go out as a group, and you have a guide that leads you out and back. I probably should have jumped this up higher while we were talking about Animal Kingdom Lodge, but at Sanaa, that is a African and Indian style restaurant that is there at Animal Kingdom Lodge. where you can actually see the savanna animals, and some of them can come up pretty close to the window. But you're also getting very authentic foods that are not just like your typical Disney restaurant foods. So they have a lot of loose leaf teas, that different African and Indian ones. I highly recommend trying one that like you've never had before. And what they're really known for is their bread service, where they will give you 5 different types of naan bread and then 9 of these different like dipping sauces and things. I like to try every kind of bread with every kind of dip. Some of them are quite spicy, so I tend to kind of circle back to these kind of mild and fruity ones, but all of them are super great. I highly recommend it. And then I also love for like your entree doing more of like a sampler, because here we have like a little bit of everything really. There's buttered chicken, there's braised beef, there's some lentils, there's some shrimp. I don't remember what these 2 were, but they come with basmati rice. This is like 2 or 3 different samplers like shown all together in one photo. But I absolutely love their buttered chicken. It is my favorite thing there. The braised beef is also great, and basmati rice is my favorite kind of rice. So with all the extra like sauces and curries that are in it, mixing it with the rice is just so good. It is one of my favorite meals ever. And then also dessert. This was one specific to the 50th anniversary, but this one that's more of like a mousse, I think you can get anytime. At Epcot, you can do like actual wine tasting. So they have a wine cellar and they have 4 different Italian wine flights. But you can also do the wine walk, which is made up of France, Germany, and Italy, where you get 6 different wines, and it's a 2-ounce pour like you would have at a normal tasting. And you can go around to the different ones and pick any 6 that you want throughout the day, and you'll get this little like wine glass to taste them in. I highly recommend that. It's good like even if you have a group, so that way everyone gets to try a little bit of everything. I hate like committing to like a whole glass of something that I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not. I much prefer just trying a couple ounces of it. Also at Epcot, when you ride Living with the Land, which takes you into this greenhouse, you'll hear about the behind the scenes tour. And it's only $35 per person, and you can book it in advance. But it's a good, like, you get to walk around on a guided tour through this whole area rather than just the boat. And it's just something interesting to do, like, at least once. At the Port Orleans Resort, which has a riverside side and a French Quarter side, they have horse-drawn carriage rides. And they do them kind of like sunset and into the evening, and they look like this. And I think you can fit like 4 or 5 people. I think it depends on like the size of people like in your group and stuff, or like how many kids. But the guides are like really knowledgeable. They'll tell you like about the resort or about the horses or just anything about like Disney in general that you want to know. Also at Port Orleans, at the Riverside Resort, they have the River Roost Lounge. Bob Jackson performs most nights. He's a piano player. It's a very interactive show. So it's usually 2 shows a night. The first show is really geared towards like getting kids worn out and tired. Both shows are kid friendly, but the first one like even more so in particular, but you don't need to have any kids to go to the show. The Boardwalk Resort also does a free tour. If you are staying there, you just have to check with the front desk when they're offering it. This photo is probably from back when we did that tour, because this would have been like well over 10 years ago. But this is the Boardwalk Resort here in the background. They tell you what all these different buildings are like modeled after in Atlantic City, and different Easter eggs that are throughout the whole boardwalk. The other side too, that's like not shown in this picture. So that's what's really fun about that tour. Also inside the resort as well. It's not just this outside boardwalk part. The Yacht and Beach Club resorts that are across the water from here, they have a sand bottom pool, lazy river. They have this big pirate shipwreck where there's a slide that comes across the walkway into the pool, and their hot tubs are like all within like rock features, and it's kind of like the most coveted pool at Disney. You have to be staying there. They scan wristbands for everybody, so if you're able to stay there for at least a night to experience the pool, I highly recommend it. Another free thing that you can do is the celebration buttons, So they have buttons for birthdays, anniversaries, graduations. They just have regular celebrating buttons, and every once in a while they have some different ones as well. These are completely free. Most retail locations have them. Sometimes some other places will have them too. It just kind of depends. But what I like to do with them is, so for my 16th birthday, I went to Epcot and I had them write like Happy Sweet 16 or 16th birthday or something like that. We went to Morocco, so that they wrote it in Arabic. And then in China, we had them write one in Chinese. In Japan, we had them write one in Japanese. So it's fun to do like little things like that are themed. The retail locations, especially at the resort hotels, they always have a little like trivia board of, I think, like 5 or 6 questions. And if you can answer them all, they'll usually give you like a sticker or like some sort of trinket if you know them. It's always fun to see like what kinds of questions they're going to have, and it's always something different. All of the Disney resort hotels have like a main pool where they do all kinds of activities, and then they have like separate quiet pools that are meant for, to actually relax. But these main pools, they do pool parties every day. They do stuff like Disney trivia. They do dance parties. They do bingo. Some of them will do like volleyball and stuff in the pool. It just kind of depends on that resort setup. But it's fun to have like a resort day to just like sit and enjoy the pool. This is the pool at Coronado Springs. It's supposed to be like the lost city of gold. Fort Wilderness has kayaking and canoeing that you can take out on the waterways. It's really cheap. My sister and I did it just this past summer, and with the cast member discount, it was like $4. Like for both of us, like all together, the total was like $4. But so I think it was like 50% off. So for 2 people to canoe, I think we took out a canoe. It could have been a kayak, but I think we took out a canoe for $10 for like 30 minutes. They give you like a little blowhorn for like emergencies. You get a little life vest, you get the paddle, but it's just here at the bike barn. That's where you can rent out anything and everything for recreation activities. So that's just something like nice, and it can be fairly leisurely. Like you don't need to like race through to do it. So that's fun to do. The more people, the better, because it improves your odds of not being the one attacked by an alligator. But to my knowledge, no one has ever actually been attacked. But there are gators out there, so you don't want to be the one. Fireworks cruises. So on Bay Lake, they can take out these pontoon boats. You'll have a guide that takes you out. If you've ever seen outside of Magic Kingdom, right before the fireworks, you'll see all these kinds of boats out there across the water. Those are all fireworks cruises. These were decorated particularly for the 4th of July fireworks, which I'm sure is significantly more expensive than a regular night. But you can get up to 10 people on the boat, and they provide snacks and drinks. So that's something fun that you could do. They also have them over at Epcot as well. Over here on the same water here, Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon, they do an electrical water pageant. I don't have any good photos because it's like at nighttime and it's kind of like flashing neon lights, so it's just kind of hard to get. But it's just this little boat parade, like little barges that goes around. It goes in front of like each resort and makes a circle and circles back. And it's kind of from the era of like the Main Street Electrical Parade. So it's definitely older, but it is really nice to watch if you can ever be like out by the water at any of those resorts in the evening. I highly recommend trying to watch it out once. So Disney bathrooms, different bathrooms like have like cult followings, like they're popular or not. Mainly because like when the Tangled bathrooms opened at Magic Kingdom, it was just, they were adding this whole little area to Fantasyland, and it was like just for bathrooms, but they're really nice. But behind the Figment ride are bathrooms that tend to never be used. So if you are looking for a quiet spot, these bathrooms, like nobody ever goes to them, and they're like just huge bathrooms. Like Rapunzel's Tower, like I was just mentioning, those bathrooms, they have phone charging stations. They have this whole area of like benches and these little tree stumps. They all have like built-in phone charging stations. So it's a nice place to sit and do that rather than like finding a random one like in a random place that you're probably not supposed to be using. Columbia Harbor House, the upstairs dining that overlooks like kind of towards like Liberty Square, Haunted Mansion area is a really nice area to sit and eat. It tends to have less people up there. It tends to be pretty quiet, and it's also just good food, especially if it's like a colder or rainy day. It really just hits the spot. In Adventureland, you can do the Treasures of the Seven Seas treasure hunt. It's interactive, and there are 5 different missions that you can do. Each one takes about 20 minutes, but you can like take your time. It's not like a timed thing. It's completely free. And once you collect everything, you will get like exclusive little trinkets. And then the last thing I have is foot golf at Shades of Green. So Shades of Green is a military resort that is on Disney property, so it's behind the Polynesian. You generally need to have a military ID to get into the resort, but if you have a reservation to do something there, like go to the golf course, then just show your reservation and for the people in your party. But foot golf is 9 holes of one of the golf courses, and you're just kicking a soccer ball, and they put a big giant hole in there that a soccer ball fits in. So you're kicking it the length that you would normally like hit a golf ball. And it's actually really fun. I highly recommend trying it. It's not super expensive. And also if you like split between your group, it's just a unique activity that I just haven't seen anywhere else. And then there's also a kind of like sports bar by the pool if you want to like eat there afterwards, or if you want something nicer, they have an Italian restaurant too. So some more fun things to do in Florida. These are all the different posts that I have for other things in the area. So Kennedy Space Center is over on the East Coast, about an hour away from Disney. It's a very popular place to go to. I highly recommend checking it out if you've never been. St. Augustine is also East Coast, but like 2 hours north. It's the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in the US. And you can tell when you walk through like the old town area, but it's a very cool city. I highly recommend checking it out. Some different road trips. You can drive Florida's A1A, so their whole East Coast drive that is like on the actual coast, so like not just driving like the highway down, but the actual roads like through all the beach towns. That's really fun to do over the course of like several days, or visiting like the Treasure Coast. So it's going to be like south of Kennedy Space Center and kind of central Florida East Coast area. It's definitely much quieter there tourism wise, so like the beaches aren't usually as crowded and things don't tend to be as pricey. Some national parks. So Biscayne National Park is just outside of Miami. The park is water, so you can book different kinds of excursions through them to kind of go around. We did a half-day sailing excursion. On the day that we went, there was no wind, so they just put us in like a regular boat instead. But they took us out snorkeling, and then we did stand-up paddleboarding and had a picnic lunch here on the key and took the boat back for the day. It was like a small group of us. I think these fit maybe like 10 or 12 people each day. And then there's also the Everglades National Park that is also pretty close to Biscayne. And you just take an airboat like this out into the water, and they will drive you around really fast, find you the alligators. And it's just nice leisurely outdoor excursion. There's also Dry Tortugas, which we have not been to, but it's off of Key West, and I do have a day trip itinerary for Key West. I've been a few times now, and it's just a really nice place to visit. This is the southernmost point of the continental US. You can take a picture here with the buoy. And then just kind of wrap this up, I also have a 1-week Florida road trip itinerary that includes Disney, but also all of the places that I previously mentioned. You can hit up all of those within 1 week, and I have an itinerary here for that. And also I have this free guide for free things to do throughout Florida that would accompany this pretty well. And that is all.